Hello everyone, welcome to the session Parenting Through Grief. My name is Ariella Moscoso, I'm Skylight's clinical leader and I'm going to be the facilitator for this session. Skylight has been working in the areas of trauma, loss and grief for over 20 years, and we have been working with the Child Cancer Foundation to provide this webinar for you. So what we will do today is we will discuss the basic stages of grief, and we will connect them to different stages in the journey of cancer. We will discuss how we can support our children parenting through their grief, and we will discuss how can we look after ourselves parenting through our grief. Some things to keep in mind when we talk about grief. Grief happens after different types of losses in life. The death of a loved one is only one type of loss that people experience. Many changes, many losses, they can bring grief to. For example, in the context of cancer, when we first hear the confirmation of the condition, we may start grieving the changes in our family, the changes that are going to come, the loss of health, the difficulties in adjusting to a treatment, etc. Grief is natural and expected. It is the built-in process that helps us to adjust to loss. A person's grief reactions are like their fingerprint, unique and personal. No two people will grieve the same way. Grief may involve every part of our being: physical, mental, behavioral, social, emotional, or spiritual. It is common to see people from the same family grieving in different ways, and some people may feel, oh, you are not sad, or you are not grieving the loss of our child because you don't express what you're going through, or you did not show it the way I show it. And in reality is they may be grieving in their own particular way, and they are, of course. The other thing that I would like to mention in this area is, if it's true that grief is natural and expected, it is also true that there is no expected duration for how long grief needs to be. I am aware that there are some standard parameters for this is normal grief and this is pathological grief, or this is complex grief, which is true, but that doesn't necessarily have to do with how long you are sad or how long you are experiencing grief reactions. It has more to do with how those reactions are keeping you from living your usual life. If we think about the stages of grief, in the past, we used to think it was a continuum, as I was saying, beginning and end for a certain number of weeks or for a certain number of months. In reality, they are more like a cycle, and they are likely to happen at the same time. They are, again, in no order: denial and isolation, anger, acceptance, depression, and bargaining. You may feel all of them one day, on the same day. You may be a little bit longer in one, or you may be, for example, angry for a little bit longer, or you may be in denial for a little bit longer. But again, it's not a continuum. It's not something we would expect you to travel. It's not a journey, beginning and end. It's more like a cycle. But we do expect that we all at some point come to the acceptance of what's happening. In children, grief is going to be dependent on how old they are and how mature they are. It's going to, of course, have be impacted by the relationship of the person who has gone on or who is about to pass. For example, if they have a sibling who is going through cancer treatment, and or it is a friend or is their own treatment. It will depend also on how much the loss affects their sense of safety, belonging, and routine. It will depend on their previous experiences with illness and death, their culture, their spiritual beliefs, or the family. It's going to depend also on how available the parents or other caregivers are for them, especially to answer the questions. If we stop a little bit in the developmental age, for example, for infants up to 3 or 4 years, death will have little or no meaning at all. They may even think that death is irreversible, forever or always. They're not something that they can really understand because they live in the present moment. It's only from 4 to 7 years old when they start grasping the concept of time, and even then death is going to be only temporary, but they will be able to feel whatever the adults around them are feeling, and they may even think they did something to cause their sadness, or they may fear that they are going to be told off, for example. They may be feeling guilty or ashamed because of what people around them are feeling. Again, thinking they may have done something to cause this. Children of this age, they are still very in the magical thinking space. So they may feel like what they do, what they say, or what they wish sometimes is becoming a reality. From 7 to 12 years old, children will understand death as something that cannot be undone. It is irreversible or permanent, but they may still have a little bit of this magical thinking, and they may be afraid of death, or they may think death is a ghost or an angel or something supernatural. The important thing about this age is they start understanding death as universal, as something that is going to happen to all of us. And they may be curious about what happens after with the physical body, or what happens after when the person dies. What you share and when you share it, in general, it will depend on what you and your family think it's appropriate. It would also depend on what you believe, because as I was saying, especially for young children, when you start talking about death, when you start talking about grief, or when they are faced with the reality of death of someone else, they may have questions like, where do we go when we die? Or why do people die? And that will be probably have a lot to do with what the family thinks and what the family believes. When your child is grieving, what they may experience, it can be in this list, or it can be something completely different. But in general, they may experience anxiety, anger, sadness, or low mood. They may be over-dependent from parents or caregivers. They may experience passivity, recklessness, defiant behavior, headaches, stomach aches, sleep difficulties or nightmares, change in their eating habits. It's not a rule, of course, but the younger the child, the more physical the symptoms may be. I've seen a lot of aches in general in young children. Some of them regress to earlier stages in development. For example, they may start wetting the bed, or they may start acting like a young child when they are already 7, 8. What can we say about anticipatory grief? When we are in the context of cancer, in the context of our own child undergoing treatment, and we have more children, so their siblings may be wondering what's happening, and everyone in our family may be start feeling some anticipatory grief responses. So in the context of children, start introducing the conversation before we encounter ourselves in a life-threatening moment. Ask what they already know or what they think about death. That will give you a very good indication of the kind of information they are prepared to receive. Remember, of course, not all the children are the same. So a very young child may be very mature and they may be prepared to have a different kind of conversation. And again, on the other side, a very mature 12-year-old may not be ready to have a very open conversation about death. Ask what they already know or what they think about cancer, especially, for example, if they have had a family member undergoing through cancer and cancer treatments in the past. They may already have an idea of what it looks like or what they can expect. If it's, for example, a sibling who is having cancer treatments, they may start wondering, like, are they going to be able to play with me? Are they going to be able to watch movies with me? What's happening when they go to the hospital, for example. If this is about your child who is undergoing treatments, discuss with your family and the health team what it is important for you that your child knows about their treatments and condition. Of course, that's a decision that's ultimately yours and your family's, but some parents may not want to know, for the child to know the complexities of the treatments or the complexity of their condition. And the idea is for everyone to be on the same page. It will be great for the child to have some consistency also in the information they receive. For your other children, when your child who is undergoing treatment is facing a complex moment, it may be a good time to expand a little bit if the topic comes up. Recommendations in general for talking to children about death and grief. Encourage their questions, always answer. Even if you do not have the answer, it's always good to give them an answer. We're showing that we care about what's concerning for them. For example, the answer may well be, I don't know. Why don't we find out together? Be honest. Again, connecting to my previous point, it is okay to say you don't know. And it is encouraged to be honest and say you don't know and that you want to know too. Show empathy for what they're feeling, especially in the context of it is okay to feel. Even if you're angry, even if you're sad, whatever it is you're feeling, it is okay to feel. We are going to get anxious and concerned about what they're feeling. And we're parents, so we're probably going to try and fix it very quickly, especially in teenagers. Try to resist the temptation and be there for them and their timing. Let them know that you're always going to be there for them, but they need to be ready to talk and to ask the questions. Recommendations for supporting our children through grief, like when someone they love has already passed. Try to maintain consistency in their routines. Eating, sleeping, and hydration are very important. of course, keeping in mind that if it's immediately after someone has passed, is going to be the routine is going to be impacted by everything that we need to do in the context of mourning someone. Remember that grieving is very exhausting, and offer them time to rest. You may organize a friend or family friend to take them for a walk, or to take them out on, not necessarily on a play date, but to spend some time with their own friends. Maybe watching a movie, maybe just going to the playground for a little bit. Take them to the playground for a walk or to the beach. Spending time in nature always helps. Once everything is more settled, you could ask them to prepare a remembrance box or a memorial of some sort that represents their relationship with their sibling. Again, outside the memorial services that we are going to organize, of course, they may benefit from developing some sort of a special thing that will be just theirs to keep. For example, like a remembrance box where they put significant belongings or something that is important for them to remember their sibling or to remember the person who has passed. They could decorate it the way they want. They could either keep it or bring it to the cemetery or do something like that. Some older children may choose to write a letter, or to plant a tree, or to sing their favorite song, or to play their favorite song in the morning. Something that helps them feel connected with their sibling. And offer them external support if possible. They may feel isolated, and they may need to connect with someone already. They may, especially young children, they may be afraid to upset you if they talk to you about what they're going through. So connecting them with someone, maybe a very close friend, an auntie or an uncle, or even a counselor. It's not about turning this into a problem, of course. It's just about, you may feel comfortable talking to someone who is not grieving the same way you are. When to pay extra attention? If they change the way they look, or they stop caring about the way they look. If they go through to extreme changes, for example, they are shy now when they were not like that. They avoid activities that they previously enjoyed. They are engaging with risky activities, for example, if it's teenagers or preteens, they start using drugs, or they have impulsive sexual behavior beyond what you and your family would consider experimentation. If they appear sad or they appear really low without evident cause, of course, in the context of grief, we have a cause, and we have a very important one. But if it goes beyond that, then it might be a good idea to have a conversation. If they go through major mood swings, if they change their sleeping patterns in a way that's impacting on their well-being, if they start making statements that reflect a low self-esteem, for example, I'm stupid, no one likes me, I'm worthless, or if they have suicidal behavior, or they make suicidal statements like, you will miss me when I'm gone, or they start giving away their belongings, or they talk about dying a lot. You know them better than anyone, and if you have any concerns, talk to them and tell them how you feel. Offer to help or to connect them with help. It is okay to not wanting to share if you want, again, because they may not want to upset you, or they may feel like it's not important, what they're feeling is not important in the context of something bigger that has happened. But they need to feel like they are important. They need to feel like we care. We need to show them we care, and we can connect them to help if they need. So in the context of cancer, other children may have questions. This can apply, for example, for children whose siblings have passed and they are returning to school, or for children who are living with cancer and currently undergoing cancer treatments. So, for example, they may start asking, why are you taking this medication? How come you cannot do this anymore? Or why were you away so long when it was not a holiday? It would be great to know how to manage the questions from other children. And you could talk to your child and help them decide if and what they want their class or their friends to know. Help them decide if they want to talk to them, if they want you to talk to them, or if they want, for example, the teacher to talk to them with your guidelines, like, this is what we want to share, could you please share it with the group? Whatever the case, talk about it and see what feels better for them. If it's your child who is undergoing cancer treatments, for example, they may start realizing what cancer means in their lives. Help them realize that everyone is different. Strengthen the communication with them and connect with their friends and families. Ask them what they think it could help with a specific problem. Part of what friends and what school means is the sense of belonging to this really cool group that's not my family. And having cancer and going through cancer treatments may be a way of being different. And some children may be very scared of being different. And that could produce some sort of anxiety. So if you ask them what they feel it could help with a specific problem or what that specific problem is, then you could offer specific solutions. Discuss with them different options to keep themselves safe and belong at the same time. Again, the idea of belonging is very important, and is also a very good protective factor to increase the resilience, like having a very strong support network. No matter the case, even if they are grieving a sibling who has passed or they are undergoing cancer treatments, having a very strong support network is always important. And finding different ways of belonging is going to definitely help them cope with whatever they're facing. So if we talk about us as parents, we can't fix it. We can only join them on their journey. So we're going to talk about parenting through our grief. Our lives are going to look more like a roller coaster than a quiet stroll around a very nice road. If we are just in the process of grieving our child who has passed, we are probably coming out of a very long period of treatments and diagnosis and trying to manage our lives and their lives and trying to cope at the same time. So this is a very good representation of what we may feel. If we think about what our lives look like, we are probably trying to juggle a lot of different areas. For some of you, this may look like a more populated picture, but for some of you, you may have a little bit of less things to worry about, but we all have more things to deal with when we're grieving and when we are undergoing cancer treatments, we still have all these other things to care for, and that is going to be very, very exhausting. This is taken from a book called Care for Caring Parents, and a mother says, "I suppose the hardest thing is trying to lead your life as normally as possible. I do try to hold everything together. There is only me to rely on, so my children are dependent on me to stay strong, and that's what I try to do. There are times when I lie awake and think, there is no way I can cope with tomorrow. But that is probably when I'm overtired and I have allowed things to get on top of me. I fall asleep, and the next morning I wake up with my strength renewed, and I'm ready to fight on for another day." We all feel like this at some points, but when we are going with our children through the treatment, through the diagnosis, through everything that cancer comes with, we may feel like this every single day. When we are grieving our child who had passed, we may feel like this for completely different reasons too. So these are all the areas in which grief can actually have an impact on you. May have an impact, of course. So if we think about the spiritual side of it, why me or why us, and the constant wondering of why. We may feel very vulnerable. We may feel like we want explanations. We may be looking for meaning until we may come to the acceptance, and we may find hope, or we may find the meaning. In the social area, we may feel isolated, especially if we are in the process of undergoing cancer treatments with our children. We may feel like a lot of time constraints. We cannot do everything. We may feel like we are the target for criticism because we are doing or we are not doing what other people think we should. We may be seeking or refusing support. We may feel rejected. We may feel like we have a social stigma, or we may feel distance from our friends and from our circle. Emotionally, we may go through sudden mood swings, anger, uncontrollable crying, or feeling emotionally flat or unable to feel. Psychologically, we may feel our self-confidence is increased or decreased. Sense of competence, blame ourselves or others for what's happening. Feeling the awareness of the loss, feeling a little bit of depression, guilt, or anxiety. And in the physical area, we may have limited time to rest or sleep, especially when we are in the process of caring for a child who is undergoing treatments or who is palliative. We may start feeling the extra demands, and we may feel the weight of the extra demands because, again, the rest of the family still need us. We may start using drugs. We may feel exhausted. We may feel insomnia, fatigue, or feeling of not resting at all, even if we can do it. So what can we do with this? Self-care is key. It's the only way in which we're going to be able to go through this. Spending time with your loved ones, spending time in nature, exercise, whatever it is that you consider exercising. For some of you may be going for a very long run, or for some of you maybe I'm going to walk around the block. But just keep yourself moving a little bit. Develop a worry box, build a worry box, as is basically, again, a box in which you write everything that wakes you up at 3 in the morning. When you cannot sleep because you're thinking and thinking and thinking about something and you feel anxious and you cannot stop thinking, you write your problem, your issue, you write it on a piece of paper and you put it in your worry box. And the worry box is only to be open, for example, every Sunday at 2 p.m. every fortnight. And when you take the time, you put the perspective on it, you may find that when you open your worry box, some problems are not problems anymore. Some things can be addressed, and you may have, with a very calmed brain and with a very clever approach, you can develop an action plan for addressing the things that you can do something about. And you can make peace with those things that you cannot do anything about at this stage. Or you can actually find that some things you need help to do it. So you can contact the people or the agencies or your people to help you with the specific things. That links with the next one. Build a support network. You never know who your support network may be. So be open, be open eyes, open heart to find out who can do what for you and what you can do for them too, because that's how a network works. Asking for specific help. Our friends, our family, our loved ones, they're going to be available and they're going to make themselves available for helping us and for supporting us. But they may say that they do not know how or what to do for us. So if you ask for specific help, more than sure that they will be happy to provide it. For example, can you come and help me with my vacuum cleaning? Can you come and help me with the washing? Can you come and help me with the cooking? Or can you pick this up for me? Or can you pick the kids from school on one day so I can go for a walk? Again, it's connected with the support network, of course, but it is a little bit about knowing what you need and asking for it. Look for someone you can be absolutely open about what you're going through. A counselor, a priest or a minister, a close friend, your partner, if that's the case. You may be feeling a lot of things when you're grieving that you do not want to share with anyone because of whatever reason. You may not want to upset them, for example. And having someone who can be there for you, open heart, open ears, no judgment at all, and just be there for you and for sharing what you're going through is going to make an absolute difference. So whoever you trust who can take that role, it would be a very, very good support for you. Rest and take it easy. Grieving is exhausting, as we were saying with the children. You definitely need to rest. We reprioritize what we need to do, and we just address the immediate priorities. But you need to take time to rest. If you cannot sleep, for example, go for a walk before you go to bed. And that way you can get rid of a little bit of the anxiety or whatever you're feeling before going to bed, and that will help you rest a little bit more. And if you're finding it hard to disconnect or to disengage from what you're feeling, again, connecting with someone you can talk to or asking for specific help from your network is going to be extremely helpful. Make sure you eat well and you keep up with water. Avoid drugs and alcohol. They are just temporary relief. They're not going to make you feel better. And that concludes our webinar, our session today. I hope you find it interesting, and I hope you were able to take some useful tips from here. If anything, you can visit Skylight's Resilience Hub, where you can find a lot of information and support and resources, or you can contact us through our 0800 number, and someone will be able to assist you to connect you with the help you need. Thank you.